We start with the underwear. On top, he wears an undershirt made of cotton jersey, ending just above the elbow. For underpants, just a plain white pair with long legs, like they were worn at the time. Moving on to the socks, these were made of wool. The underpants had straps at the end of the trousers' legs, just so they could be secured there. Civil servants played a significant role in military administration. For example, the Ministry of War required counsels, secretaries, accountants, registrars, clerks, and junior clerks. Military academies needed teachers, while the general staff and grand general staff also relied on civil servants. In total, there were about 18 different branches that required various civil servants. Here, we focus on a lower-ranking civil servant from the Proviantente, or Provisions Office. Civil servants typically wore no uniform at home, unless they held a high rank or had to go into the field. The Proviantente managed rations for both humans and animals, planning how much food was needed and where. The senior administrative officials were mainly people qualified for the senior administrative service, retired officers, former quartermaster officials, middle-ranking administrative staff, registry officials, and clerks or junior officials from the military entitled to pension benefits. Now he puts on a white shirt with a detachable collar and sewn-in cuffs. Access to influential positions in government and administration was limited. Religious and political factors played a major role. Few senior civil service positions were held by Catholics, and the situation was even more restrictive for Jewish citizens. There were no social democrats in the higher civil service, and liberals usually had to settle for positions in local government. The next item is a pair of woolen pants with braces. Then both the pants and the shirt are buttoned up. Next, the braces are adjusted, and the necktie prepared. First, button up the collar and fix its fit. Then tie the necktie and adjust it as well. Now it is time to put in the cufflinks on both sides. It can be a bit tricky to do alone, but it is quite manageable. These cufflinks are covered in fabric, specifically silk. Social factors also mattered. A career as a senior or middle-ranking civil servant required financial means, a university degree, and several years of unpaid work in public office before securing a paid position. Civil service was highly prestigious, and less wealthy families hoped it would bring social advancement. Social background favoured entry, with aristocratic origins being particularly advantageous. Membership in a student fraternity or a reserve officers' commission also improved the chances of gaining a senior position. Our next piece of clothing is the waistcoat. At the time, it was considered an undergarment. Waistcoats come in all kinds of different styles, shapes and forms. Next are the shoes. These are simple, plain, military-style shoes, rather than fancy ones. To protect the leather sole, they have hobnails. Hobnails were more common off-road, but could also be worn in the city. Military-style clothing and equipment were easy to obtain, as there were many merchants and craftsmen selling all kinds of military gear. Prussian state selection criteria helped create a highly homogeneous and politically conservative group of civil servants at the top levels. Even middle and lower civil service positions tended to be conservative. Career advancement, especially for civil servants, was closely linked to years of military service. More than half of all civil servants came from the army. Non-commissioned officers could be hired as civil servants after 12 years of service. Hierarchical thinking, based on command and obedience, gradually became part of the administrative apparatus. Military patterns of behaviour shaped daily life, and civil servants expressed gratitude for their prestige and job security through loyalty to the state and government. The following item is the pocket watch and its chain, visible attached to the waistcoat. There were countless styles of both watches and chains made in a range of materials, from nickel-plated iron to silver or even gold. Moving on to the jacket, the most important and visible piece of the suit. Finally, we reach the hat, the key piece of uniform for this civil servant. It shows he works for the army and specifically for the Proviantente, or Provisions Office. Higher-ranking civil servants wore a uniform at home, while lower ranks only did so if deployed in the field.